procedures are too long. Often, having failed once means to be in the possibility to re-enter the game for years. This is not acceptable. People cannot be stigmatized for one error. And Europe should create further networks and projects as Erasmus for young entrepreneurs between the young generation and experienced entrepreneurs. Dialogue is an essential element for success. It gives young people the chance to profit from the experience of others to their own projects. Throughout the past years, many associations of young entrepreneurs who show the willingness to share experience, such as the Young Innovation Europe or the Young Innovators, have started to grow. It demonstrated that young people are highly motivated to create a new digital dimension of exchange. Policymakers should support this initiative and help to develop further ideas. And last but not least, ensuring the availability of sufficient financing will be essential if Europe wants to carry out its ambitious agenda. This should be achieved by means of all available sources, for example, through encouragement of public-private partnerships, creation of conditions that allow crossing country investments of venture capital, and better access to loans and grantees. Moreover, the accessibility to European financial programs should become more simple and transparent. Horizon 2020 could be a revolution in this sense. For the next EU Research Framework Program, the first draft was expected before December 2011. The Commission had proposed to reorganize the EU current research and innovation funding instruments, aiming at a better connected innovation chain. Funding for research and innovation will be increased and radically simplified. Also, common strategic priorities focusing on societal challenges, competitiveness, and research excellence will substitute the current different priorities in each program initiative. And Horizon 2020 promises to close the existing gap between knowledge and the innovation process. It will cover activities from research to retail, with a stronger focus on innovation-related activities such as piloting, demonstration, and market uptake of innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, Europe has started its ambitious way toward the creation of a smart and creative economy. Together with all stakeholders involved, let's turn the European Union into Innovation Union. Therefore, I wish you an interesting event. Thank you very much for your attention and very good days and hours by this convention. Thank you very much.
Let me express my warmest welcome to this EIT conference. Regrettably, I am not able to participate in person. Nevertheless, I would like to say some words as Chairwoman of the Committee on Culture and Education in the European Parliament. Nowadays, education and knowledge are the most important tools to succeed in life. Furthermore, well-educated people are the ones to promote further economic development. Europe needs well-educated people to meet its objectives of the 2020 strategy to become a smart, sustainable and inclusive economy. Lifelong learning is the European Union's answer to the demands of the knowledge society. The importance of knowledge is very clear because it is the only wealth that cannot be robbed. Lifelong learning is a continuous engagement in acquiring and applying knowledge and skills. It is a concept of a never-ending learning process and a response to the demands of changing economies and societies. It aims at creating individuals being able to actively participate in all spheres of social and economic life. While entrepreneurship is a key driver of our economy, entrepreneurship education is a lifelong learning process which should start as early as possible and continue through all levels of education, including adult education. Therefore, the European Parliament supports the idea of integrating a culture of entrepreneurship into curricula, beginning early with primary curricula. Furthermore, we encourage the business world to participate actively in the design of educational material on entrepreneurship to be made available at all levels of education in order to improve mobility in all areas. Cooperation between education and business at local, regional, national and transnational level has a particular role in enhancing learners' employability and entrepreneurial potential with the working world. In this context, I very much welcome the EIT's mission to support entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial education and its key educational activity through the knowledge and innovation communities, the KICs, where business partners are actively engaged in curriculum design, teaching activities, as well as supervision of master and PhD projects. I wish you a very fruitful conference and a cordial but amicable discourse, keeping in mind the importance of education as an important element for entrepreneurship.
Very well. So, well, a conference is also a startup. Yeah? You need to warm up a bit again. Well, I think to do that definitively, I have the privilege to have Alex with us. He's the chairman of the board. I should introduce him, and maybe by doing what he doesn't like, which is to speak about his background, but he will, of course, convince you that he is really an entrepreneur, and we are very much thankful. You are visualizing, Alex, I think, what we need. So you would talk about that, but let me introduce again, by doing what you don't like, to introduce your professional and your academic career. He was moving from the US to Sweden, then Austria. He had a PhD in genetics at the University of Heidelberg, then postdoctorate position in the Stanford University. Then in Sweden, he was at the Karolinska Institute, 1992 to 98, microbiology chair in the University of Vienna. You know, so again, if you want to know something about mobility, you have a very good example here. But of course, he is not a professor only. He's a true entrepreneur. And then in 1998, he created Intercell, a company among the most successful one in this domain in Europe. And then we are now, since last September, in fact, very proud to have him as our chairman of the EIT governing board. He was elected member of the board in 2008, but again, it's only in September that he has to take office. Let me share also a personal note. I feel very proud of having been elected director of EIT. I started in July, but I feel also very proud and honored to be really working hand in hand with Alex. So that, again, forgive me, Alex, that I remind all this about what you don't like, academies and so on, but I think it's important that we introduce you properly. Please, could you then, yes, definitively warm up and explain what's your vision about entrepreneurship and what is EIT all about, so that you can really provide this focus.
Thank you so much, José, Manuel, for this introduction. I think I like to remind all of us, whatever people we are, the most important thing is that the EIT and its KICs are becoming successful. I welcome you to this very exciting workshop which has been organized here in Poland, and particularly you, the students and the entrepreneurs in the audience, you are really at our heart, and I also welcome, I think, all the EIT staff, the CEOs of the KICs. I, of course, also welcome my colleagues from the governing board, and I think our director, but also Mr. Gulda, who has been nicely introducing the EIT and the KICs here and its mission to entertain this conference. I personally believe that I have a connection to this town and this university, and this is a very personal note. I think number one should say that 14th century, I think, was an extremely, if you want so, entrepreneurial and innovative century. Since through the Renaissance, I think the Italian university concept was swapping over to Europe, and I think you should know that Krakow, with its universities and later on also the technical university, really is dating back to become the third university north and eastern of the Alps, which is very impressive, which makes me filled with pain of belonging still honorably to the University of Vienna, that we were slower in innovation and only came, I think, 1 year later. This other portrait you see is my aunt, and she passed away about 20 years ago. She was a very famous scientist in sinology. She helped to undecipher the origin of the Chinese language in Central Asia. And she only did very pivotal work before World War II. And I think she was suffering by herself from the Nazis, that although she was very recognized, they did not allow her really to be promoted at that time to become a full professor. Later she was, after the war, in the United States and in Germany. So she was a brave woman when the Nazis were running over, together with, of course, also the communists coming from the Stalin side, and I think really making Poland suffering throughout the most critical and tragic past of its history. I think the Nazis tried to extinguish the University of Krakow. And I think there was a group of 20 professors in Berlin, amongst them my aunt, Annemarie von Gabain, who signed 1940 a petition in saying that this is an outstanding universities, that they should take out the professors and teachers again out of the concentration camp and put them back in place, which of course they didn't. But just to tell you, you also need to be courage in this world if you like to achieve something, and this is my personal connection, I think, to this university here. So I think sometimes things are getting mixed up. I guess we know about discovery, invention, translation, and we always use sometimes this cover-up term, innovation. And I guess, as we all know, innovation is more. Innovation is really taking all these ingredients and getting really the concepts, the surface, to the people, to the customer. And I guess this is sometimes underestimated, and many politicians still believe just pumping money into science and research will suffice. And as you see in my presentation later on, this is not enough. And it is interesting, if you go back in history, it was known to Francis Bacon that I think there is a linear process starting up with academic research and then ending up at the other end with added value. So I think many of the ideas and concepts we are promoting here, they are not novel. But it was interesting that 100 years later, Adam Smith basically has been smart enough to realize that, so to say, sideways in, you have great discoveries, but they only really create value if they, so to say, enter the industry, namely the entrepreneurial arena. And this is something which is still the ruling paradigm, and a little bit we in Europe have forgotten that this is very important. You need good research, but you need also to go into the value chain in really creating businesses around the knowledge and the education you have the privilege to get at your university. So let me just take biotech as an example. I mean, it is undoubtful that Europe still is harvesting about 40% of all the Nobel Prizes in chemistry and in medicine relevant, I think, to molecular biology and biotechnology. We have fantastic research centers. We have really hubs like the University of Cambridge, the ENVO Lab in Heidelberg, and many others. We have outstanding universities, departments in this field. We have a great record in publication. We have fantastic educated people, and in addition to other parts of the world, they speak even languages of different kinds. Still, I think in spite of the scientific output, what is the reality of the European biotech industry? It's a very sobering picture. I mean, number one, after 40 or 35 years of biotech, when it started in 1970 in the west coast of the United States, only 60,000 people are employed in biotech in Europe compared to 170,000 in the United States. The average investment per year into the biotech is a third of the 1 in billion of the United States. The public listed company exceeds in the United States 30%. In Europe we only have less than 10% listed on public markets. The Origin of patents comes largely also in the United States out of companies, while in Europe it only comes out of universities, if at all. And I think the total value of all the combined companies in the United States is 300 billion, in Europe it's 30 billion. You can say, I don't care money, but I think value for biotech means desperate needed treatments against cancer, autoimmune diseases, and other horrible life situations we have to deal with. So what can we do about it? Well, we have to make first a diagnosis, and I think this is maybe the only economical chart which I really like you to digest. I think if you look at the age of innovative companies and you take together all European companies which are somehow active in the innovative arena, so you include the RBB, you include the Siemens, you include Sanofi, and you take the small companies like Skype or like Intercell or whatever, and you say, what is the average age in Europe versus the rest of the world versus the United States? And it turns out only 2% of innovative companies in Europe have been set up in the last 20 years. While in the United States, this makes up 20% of all companies, not to talk about China and the rest of the world where all companies are new, so even the innovative companies are rather young. This is a shocking fact, and I think we are here to work against this, and this is what I think is a mission of you guys, together with us at the EIT, that we are really changing this paradigm in Europe. So, this was, I think, a total blackout. I think you have to ask for assistance. I think what do we have to change in Europe, I think, to make this working better? So, I think, do we underperform in innovation? Yes, we do. I think, why do we miss recruiting the needed venture capital? Well, I will come to it. And the dilemma is we have a lack of people who are stepping out of their academic holy grails and saying, I take my fate in my own hands and I do something with the knowledge and the education I've been harvesting at my school and my university. And this wasn't always like this until the eve of the First World War, where the Austrian writer Stefan Zweig has been saying the lights of Europe went off, and they were then off for almost 70, 80 years. It was usual that professors or researchers out of universities, even students, were